Wonderful to see you all. And thank you so much for joining today. Today is one of the interviews I've been most excited about because one of my intentions with this Lucid Life series was to be able to bring in people, teachers, experts, experienced practitioners who can fill the gaps in my knowledge, of which there are many, but really to give us as a chance as a community to explore aspects of our lucid dreaming practice and our, our waking state practice too, that can kind of, the was it the lifting tide that raises all the boats, right? And sleep, really like the physiology of sleep, working skillfully with the body is one of those areas where I've always felt so woefully unable to really support my clients. And a lot of my private practice with lucid dreamers taught me that, of course, so much of what we learn is in the psycho-spiritual realm, right? If you were at the workshop last week, the week before, we play with those dials, right? Like to build this flourishing lucid dreaming practice, we create this amazing relationship and safety with the dreaming mind, which is very much in the psychological, spiritual space. And then we use our different meditation practices, our dream yoga, our lucid dream practices to sharpen and strengthen our metacognitive capacities. So to really work that part of the brain that turns on when we get lucid in a dream. But all of these kind of practices tend to sit very much in the mental, intellectual, psychological, spiritual realm. And what I have noticed with this, my private practice or the groups I've taught is that this all lives within the context of the body, right? So you can do all of the letters to the dreamer, wake back to beds, state checks you want, but if you're struggling to fall asleep at night, or if your REM periods are, you know, unsupported and short, it makes practicing so much more difficult, right? And why I'm really excited for our guest today, Dr. Rachel Sambursky, is that she's going to be able to take us into a much deeper conversation about the root causes of the stuff. So not just like, okay, cool, take your magnesium glycinate and let's, do some breathing before bed, but like deep diving into like a functional medicine approach to like creating a roots up system to support our practice. I'm really excited. So, before I bring her up, let's just take a moment to cohere together, to drop in. So, just taking a moment to close down the eyes, really giving ourselves a chance to land here in our bodies, and just allowing your next inhale to lead you back inside the experience of your own body. So just breathing it in. As you're breathing into the body, feeling the expansion of the lungs, feeling the movement of the breath at the heart. Breathing in, expanding. Breathing out, releasing. As you feel that gentle physical movement, expansion, contraction, expansion, contraction. Giving so much gratitude for the blessing of the breath, to be able to breathe, to be able to live, for the physical body that supports us, supports our conscious experience here and now. And just taking a moment to appreciate that even if our body has discomfort or pain or numbness, tension, appreciating the miracle and the gift. It is our physical expression, our interface in this incredible world. and appreciating that the body is not separate from the mind. It's not something we have to put up with or fix or have or lug around with us. It's not something we simply are, but appreciating that our body is part of the whole of our expression and our identity in this exact waking state moment. The grossest expression of the mind, the continuum of expression of the mind. And just appreciating that just as when we work on the mind, we see so much benefit, so much fruition, working lovingly with the body, so we can also uplift our capacity for practice, for living, that they profoundly impact each other. And giving thanks that today we are going to be learning how to work skillfully to use our bodies to support our minds, to support our souls, to support our flourishing and the flourishing of all beings. And taking one last deep breath of gratitude together. And letting it all go. And gently reopening the eyes. Excellent. So, a little bit about our guest today, Dr. Rachel Sambursky. You know, I mentioned in the email I sent out about this program today that, I've had quite a lot of trial and error with health. And it took me pretty deep into the functional medicine world. And one of my growing appreciations for the work that Dr. Sambursky does is finding ways to make this incredible body of knowledge of functional medicine practically available to people. You know, but a little bit of context for her. So she's a functional medicine expert, chiropractor, and the solutions she came up with, her and her co-founder, is called Soma Functional Health, which is really designed to create bespoke pathways for these like really common issues we have, right? So like mold toxicity, heavy metals, parasites, hormone imbalances, like Lyme disease, environmental chemical exposure, all of these kinds of root causes that drive the chronic illness epidemic we see across the world, especially in America, though. And so really, having built this company is a mission to restore people to the intelligence of their own bodies and like have the inside out experience of health and resilience. And she's had her experiences. She had to heal herself from Lyme disease, from Epstein-Barr, autoimmune dysfunction, migraines, immune dysregulation, mold recently too. It's the wounded healer journey, right? Like I never trust a doctor. I'm like, have you healed your own stuff? But through that process is really, I think, what brought her to this path of wanting to help people to get out of this kind of symptom management survival mode, and really helping them to work with environmental medicine and detox science, trauma-informed nervous system work to create this pathway to do real healing. And I really sense in this moment where we are dealing with obviously lots of psychological challenges, lots of stress challenges, lots of, emotional challenges in our society. But as I learned from my experience too, you be amazed how much of that can be supported with a healthy physical body. Our capacity to show up, our capacity to participate, to make change, to be vibrant beings, so much anchored and supported by our bodies. So I'm so grateful to have her here today. Please say hello to Dr. Rachel Sambursky. Thank you for joining me today.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for that intro, Mia. You're wonderful, and that was so great. So
Well,
I
I'm
really
genuinely
see.
excited because like one of the big issues I've had with my practice is finding that so many people have deeper issues. In fact, I'm curious, like out of this group here, if you have ever had mold exposure or Lyme or any kind of heavy metal exposure, I'm curious, just put like a little yes in the chat. I'm just curious if people have had those
Mhm.
experiences. Yes. Yes. It's so common now. It's like a yes, yes. And this is like I was thinking of today, like most people never get the chance to even test for this, right? Yes, 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 yeah.
Yep.
So just appreciating that, one of my big challenges was I'd find clients are dealing with these chronic issues and have nowhere to send them. And so I'm really excited today to have this conversation to start the process and also, of course, to be able to introduce your work to everybody. So maybe we can
Oh,
just start. Like we're linking in here, lucid dreaming, sleep hygiene, functional medicine. This is a super bridge. Um, but maybe we can just start with a little bit around the foundations of, why does sleep even matter? I know it sounds stupid, but it's like, God, like, why does sleep matter in a world that dismisses sleep, that brags about not getting enough sleep? Just to start us there.
hmm Yeah, I mean, sleep is so big. And I think that when you're not sleeping, then you're not repairing. And in my experience, I even went through this. I went through years and years of not being able to sleep because I myself was experiencing mold toxicity, Lyme, and I couldn't physically fall asleep. And if I did fall asleep, I would wake up. And so I noticed in my own body that I wasn't able to repair and to rest and to really hit that parasympathetic state, like that rest and digest state. And then I wasn't even having dreams. And that was a really big part for me. So, what I'm seeing now is that sleep is so imperative, and it always is because our body is this intelligent structure and we have this innate intelligence to heal. But when we're not sleeping, then we can't have that like rest and repair. So um, think about if you're, constantly running from this bear and you're fully activated, but you need that rest. We're not getting that if we're not sleeping.
Yeah.
And so I'm noticing that all the time. And especially in my practice now, if people have a lot of toxicity from toxins, environmental stresses, traumas, um, what else is there? There's thoughts, like toxins, traumas, and thoughts, all of those. Then when we go to sleep, that's when we're supposed to have this like emotional recollection of the day and to be able to process all of that. And that's one of the biggest things. It's like we
So many,
can't
so many of
if
us
we're
is
not
like
sleeping.
running like the freight train, right? Like the freight train of momentum, whether it's like the physical momentum of stored stress or the momentum of thinking, which we talk a lot about with our trainings. And
Mhm.
I can see it. Like if some people say, man, sleep is so draining. Like, I get it. So maybe we can start with, I'd say there are there are a few common complaints I've seen across, especially with lucid dreaming communities, right? We can address them all because I know they'll take us down the rabbit holes we need to go. The first I want to address is falling asleep. The second would be staying asleep,
Mhm.
especially like for those of us who do any of the lucid dreaming practices, like wake back to bed, even the baby wake back to bed, where if you try to do nighttime practice, but then you're up all night. So staying asleep. And then the quality and the length of REM periods,
Mhm.
which I think obviously there you can speak to, there's a natural decrease, but I know that there's so many of us are actually having prematurely shortened REM and prematurely disrupted REM because of these factors. So
Mhm.
let's start with, falling asleep. How can we fall asleep better?
Yeah, falling asleep for me and for a lot of my clients that I see, and really the world is it starts when you wake up in the morning. That's the first step is when you wake up. What's your morning rhythm look like? Because your morning rhythm is what's going to set your nighttime rhythm. So when you wake up, are you like take a tally of this for yourself as well. Like, are you waking up and first checking your phone and getting blue light exposure? Or are you waking up, taking a nice breath and going outside and going for a walk and really like seeing the sun? Because the sun and the sunlight exposure is what spikes our cortisol rhythm, and that's what wakes us up. So that really is going to affect our hormones and really set us up for a really good night's sleep
So you're
because
saying
then
that
at
the
night,
pre-sleep routine starts when you wake up.
yeah, it really does.
I'm always
Because
like laughing. I'm always telling my clients, okay, at least do a 5 minute pre-sleep routine or like a 20 minute. No, guys, we're going to do a 14-hour pre-sleep routine. Okay, you ready? But I love that
yeah.
because maybe just quickly backtracking because this is the stuff that I would love to understand in detail. We've all heard this. Don't look at your phone, blue light. Why? Like what is blue light and why shouldn't we be having it in the morning?
Mhm. Well, blue light, it's artificial light. So it's artificial light from like overhead lighting. I mean, blue light is already naturally in the sun. So you have the UV rays and you can look at it and you can get natural light. But when we're underneath lights all day long, it starts to signal this response in our body to where we're not going to produce melatonin at night, which is what helps us sleep. And it also is like a precursor of serotonin and that like the happiness hormone. And we need to be able to have melatonin, especially in order to lucid dream. We need to be able to stay asleep to hit that REM cycle. Um, and so, getting a lot of exposure to blue light can be really damaging to our cells at a cellular level if we're never going outside and we don't have those natural light waves. So, think about energy. Like light is energy, and that's how our bodies stay alive. That's how we breathe. We take breaths through our, like a big breath through our lungs. All of that comes from light. And so, if you are waking up and you're just checking your phone and you're looking and you don't have like blue light glasses on, and I'm going to put them on, but it's like if you if you're looking at your phone, that's the first thing you see. That spikes cortisol in a negative way, and it
So
can
it's
put
it's a
you more into.
disruptor. So these things are like disrupting the natural. It sounds like there's a natural rhythm to how our bodies work with light
Yeah.
and nature. Okay, and so the first thing we do, which I do, so now I feel really bad too because how many of us dream journalists have keep our dream journal on our phone? Ugh.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, Theo, you too, yeah.
Mhm.
So that can be a challenge, right? Because of course the convenience and how absorbed we are with phones in our life. I roll over first thing and I do take my phone and I write my dream journal in my phone. And
Mhm.
this helps me understand like, ah, okay, cool. But that's a choice which then disrupts the beginning of that cycle.
Yeah.
Okay,
And
cool.
there's ways too that you can negate those effects. Like with your phone, you can set up a red light screen so it blocks the blue light. You could wear glasses. So it's not saying that it's bad. It's just there's other ways that you could be starting your morning for a better night's sleep. So feet in the ground, like have lemon water when you wake up in the morning. Take like a nice breath and just really go outside because when you look at our biological rhythm and our circadian rhythm and the pattern of how our body actually is in nature, we go to bed with the sun and we wake up with the sun. So if we're disrupting our biological rhythm by checking our phone versus seeing the sunlight, that can be super disruptive for our hormones, for our sleep, for repair. And also for like removing toxins from the body because when we sleep, that's when we can really remove toxins. And if a lot of people are experiencing Lyme and mold, it's going to be really hard for the body to excrete those if we're not sleeping or having a really great rhythm.
So it sounds like blue light is one of those things that we've heard about, I've heard about for sure,
Mhm.
understanding that it has this disruptive element, being aware of that throughout the day, because I'm guessing multiple disruptions during the day. By the end of the day, you're maybe working with a slightly kind of off-regulated system. I mean this applies towards the end too? And
Yeah.
like yeah. And then then blue light being one factor, what are the other factors we're managing during the day to set ourselves up to be able to fall asleep?
Mhm. Well, like other than blue light, there's like, are you exercising and walking throughout the day and moving your body? There's, um, nutrition. Like, how are you feeding yourself throughout the day? What are you eating? There's Wi-Fi. Like, Wi-Fi is a big thing right now. We have EMF and we have towers everywhere. So it really depends on where you live. And are you around dirty electricity or are you out in nature more. And
But I guess
so
it's like
that's
hard, right? Because like again, I'm like if you live I mean, I live in Costa Rica. I live out in I like, I'm in the jungle. So it's not so much an issue for me, but when I lived in New York City, I mean, there's no way I can turn off every Wi-Fi router around me. And I'm not sure
Mhm.
who here like lives in the city. I think a lot of us live out. I've noticed a lot of lucid dreamers are like, well, get out the city. But, there's a lot of us who are in situations where, there's no way we can deal with the competing, overlapping things. So it's kind of outside of our control. Are there things we can do to like mitigate the impact on how that disrupts our system if we can't, switch everything off?
Yeah. Well, speaking of Wi-Fi, you could get an Ethernet cord. You can put a silver screen around your router. There's, I forgot what the screens are called, but there's also like different types of blankets that you can buy that have silver wiring, and it stops and it negates the effect. It actually repels EMF so that your body can restore its natural rhythms.
Yeah, I had a friend who created a clothing company that has like EMF shielding in the
Yeah.
in the
And there's
clothing.
caps too. Hats.
Yeah. Which is
Yes.
funny because I mean like if you told me this 10 years ago, I'd be like, with the tinfoil hat wearing people, we've officially gone crazy. I'm weaving silver. But you know what I did once? Just to speak to this, because I mean, sometimes I take it for granted that I'm like, yeah, of course, like EMFs suck. But, again, 10 years ago, I would have been like, and gluten too, right? You know, but
Yeah.
when I was in New York, I built a Faraday cage around my bed because I was curious. And I got one of those like readers. Like you can buy these like full-on frequency readers. They'll tell you like how high are the EMF levels in your house. And you put it right next to your router, super, super high, blah, 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 blah.
Mhm.
And so I was just curious, living in New York City in Manhattan, what was the ambient EMF in my apartment? And it was shocking. So building a Faraday cage, which is like this, the shielding Rachel's talking about, where you can have, whether it's a blanket or like having the grounding blankets, you
Mhm.
literally, like an eccentric that I am, you have a shielding blanket under the bed, and then you build a full-on cage with the shielding fabric, like a princess bed, but more like an African safari tent camp. And I checked. So I was using my reader when I put everything down, what's it outside, what's it inside? And the difference was phenomenal. I was like, holy moly. Like beginning to appreciate that, you know, just because we can't see the soup of energy that's surrounding us, both the measurable energy, EMFs, but also, the field, the universal field of love. But just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not dramatically impacting us. So I just wanted to kind of add that in there. So when we think about, you know, does this matter? Is this real? Just appreciating that, like, it is.
Mhm.
And so finding these ways to be aware of it and protect ourselves.
Yeah, and there's things that you can do with your Wi-Fi router, like you can turn it off when you go to sleep. You can just be away from the Wi-Fi router. And also, like relating to Wi-Fi, there's also toxins that you can stay away from. And it's not really about like removing everything. You don't have to like live inside of a bubble, but it's mostly about how can you really create like a nervous system that's regulated. And sometimes we do have to remove toxins for a while. And sometimes we do have to be able to adapt. So turning off the Wi-Fi, just removing yourself from an environment. So if you're around mold or if you're exposing yourself to heavy metals like at work or in your supplements or it's just in the air, it's like how can we start to regulate and remove and then we can start adding certain things back in. But I think it's more so about creating awareness around those things so that we can make little lifestyle changes versus, oh, I'm in my little bubble and nothing's going to touch me because
Yeah.
that's just not how
No,
it
and we
works.
have to we have to be resilient. And like one of the things I appreciate again about your work is and about functional medicine in general is that it's about restoring the the ability of our body, our natural ability to be resilient. Like our body
Mhm.
does have a capacity to process and deal. It's just like when it's so overloaded. It's
Yeah.
like so overloaded. It's like you've got parasites and mold exposure and 16 Wi-Fi connections. And and it's a lot on our systems. We wonder like, why can't I fall asleep? Or like, why do I wake up and I'm still tired? Or. So back to falling asleep. One of the things I'd noticed as a pattern, you talked about toxins, trauma, thoughts is that for a lot of the clients I've worked with who've struggled to fall asleep, there is an experience of, like lying in bed at night, turning the lights off, closing the eyes, and then
Mhm.
just being stuck in this kind of limbo where you just can't, the mind is not turning off. And one
Mhm.
of the things I appreciate about your work is how you talk about stress as being not just a mental phenomenon, but actually that stress can be like a cellular experience. So can you
Mhm.
talk to us? I mean, I think everybody here is pretty well versed in how to deal with like psychological stress. We have our breathing techniques. We have, all of us have our approaches to like dealing with that. But what about the physiological element of falling asleep and
Mhm.
stress reduction?
So with stress reduction and falling asleep, it can be as little as, from a physiological standpoint, it could be as little as, are you turning off all of the overhead lighting at night, like as soon as the sun goes down, or are you checking your phone? So it goes back to those foundations. And
So,
then,
so artificial light is being kind of a because Andrew Holacek, who's everyone here knows him, he's a dear mentor of mine. He's a dream yoga guy, and he says like the advent of like the spiritual dark age of humanity was the invention of the artificial light.
Mhm.
And so, are you saying like because the sun goes down, but we're keeping all the lights on, we're just
Yeah.
staying in
Well,
like midday mode?
we're
Yeah.
triggering our body to stay awake because when the light comes up, oh, that's when we go to work. Like we need to go work. And that's what our ancestors did. And now when we're constantly bringing in light into our eyes, that's stimulating cortisol. So you're staying awake, you're staying in that like sympathetic state, and you're not actually able to rest. And
Mm.
what can also start to um, impose on that too is again like toxins, mold, heavy metals. What is that doing to your brain? I mean,
What is
your
it
brain
doing
needs
to
to
no,
sleep.
but like what is it doing to our brain? Because that is like that's one of the things like again, we all know toxins aren't good for us. Like no
Hmm.
one's like, yeah, toxins, mold, give it to me. But what's actually like what is it actually doing?
Well, mold is a neurotoxin, so it starts to embed into it goes through the blood-brain barrier and it embeds in your brain, and it can start to cause fatigue, brain fog, hormone disruption. It can disrupt your sleep. It also can disrupt the organ system. So if you're waking up in the middle of the night or you have a constant like hour of wake time, so say that's like between 1 and 3 a.m., that would be like gallbladder, or 3 and 5 a.m., that's more liver. And so all of these toxins start to accumulate in different organ systems in our body, and then that can start to wake us up amongst like the emotional stress that we hold too in those organs. So
Right.
it's a
So
really a big combination.
and with the toxins too, just so we map this out, let's start with heavy metals because again, I think heavy metals is one of those things that people oh, man, I wish there was better care around it. I mean, like I shared my email, I had really severe lead poisoning when I was about 26, 27, and had no idea I had lead poisoning. And the experience was uh, psychological. I thought I was depressed. I had like such severe depression. I had fatigue. I had real trouble finishing my thoughts. I had real trouble with my emotional regulation. Like, I don't know, I mean, there's some of us here will be old enough. The generation where there was like lead in petrol. Do you know this whole thing? Lead in petrol. And then when they finally took the lead out of the petrol, the drop in violent crime was really interesting because lead and aggression are linked. And I felt that like I had aggressive outbursts and I tried everything to fix it in a non-physical way, therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy specifically, the stuff they recommend for depression, trying to address it at the behavioral level when actually it was lead poisoning and I had to go through a protocol to release that. But the minute I was treating it, my whole experience of life changed. And the thing is, a lot of people have much higher mercury, thallium. What are the other common ones that people are carrying
There's
now? Mercury, thallium.
cesium.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can
There's,
you maybe
I
just
mean, there's
maybe
so
just
many
speak to like yeah like
aluminum.
what do the metal toxicities what do they do to us?
Hmm. Well, it's similar to like all types of stressors do different things, and the metals go into our brain, and that's where more disruption can happen. And um, what really what really happens with like lead and mercury and mold, I mean, they all disrupt the brain, and then it can, like you were saying, like you can feel like you're going crazy,
Mhm.
or you feel like you're having these outbursts because it's starting to implicate like the way that you see the world. So if all of a sudden we have something that's impacting our brain, the way that we see the world, now everything that we perceive is a threat. And it's a threat because now our body's overloaded, and it's like you keep tacking on more metals, and then metals are stealing minerals, and we need minerals. And then you add on mold or Lyme, and that just causes like a whole slew of these things that create the body to go into a chaos mode. And then that's what's like, it's really impacting the brain. And then it keeps you in that state of fight or flight. And then how are you going to heal if you're always in fight or flight?
And then you're lying in bed, and this is the experience of like lying in bed. And I remember that time being like so frustrated because I felt like I was doing everything right. Like I'm doing my practices, I'm doing my affirmations, I'm doing my, like I'm doing all the things I'm being recommended to do. But then I'm lying there at nighttime and just still feeling like wired and even with like turning the lights off early, like I'm doing all the other things. So this
Yeah.
is if anyone's had that experience where you're like, but I've done the things, I've turned the light off and I did it,
Mhm.
like understanding that there are so many different mechanisms that can be at play.
Well,
So I'm
there's
guessing
deeper
like so
levels.
so so let's talk about things. So it sounds really doom and gloom to be like the mold, the this, it's all brutal.
Yeah.
The pathways here, if someone here is having that experience of like, oh, something doesn't feel quite right, I try to go to sleep at night, I have a pretty good routine, I don't feel like, I'm carrying all this stress or whatever, but I just can't seem to fall asleep. What do they do next? Like, how do you help your clients kind of figure out what's going on?
Hmm. Well, it starts with like a self-assessment. So I love having people go through their own self-assessment. Like, have they been exposed to metals, mercury,
How
mold?
would you know? Because metals are a funny one. Like, just I'm just
Mhm.
really curious. Like, what kind of things create exposure to? Because like we're not working in mines. Like, where are we
Yeah.
getting all this heavy metal from? What
I
are
mean,
some
it
of
can
the
be in the
things?
water. It can be in the
Yeah.
water. It can come from your mom, or like through birth. It can come from the air. Like we're constantly exposed to aluminum in the air here in the US with spraying and all of like the geoengineering. From my experience as well, they've done like studies in air samples, and there's aluminum in the air, so we're breathing it in, but we need to be able to remove that. And the ways that you would know, like you could do different types of testing. Um, there's like certain tests that we run that I love through Vibrant Wellness, and you can see like all of the exposures that you've had. And sometimes too, it's like ancestral. Like it hasn't even come from you. It's come from your mom or your grandmother. And we want to be able to remove those. So by opening up your lymphatic drainage channels, and then focusing on your liver and your gut, and really like making sure that you're going to the bathroom daily, like all of that can help remove. But what happens is we get so filled, like our bucket, our body gets so filled, accumulated of toxins, it has a hard time doing that.
So it's more like
And
it's more like consistent micro exposure versus
yeah,
like most people aren't having like one big exposure to a heavy metal that you'd remember. It's more
yeah,
like things that you wouldn't even notice. Like I remember
it's
actually with
usually over
thallium,
time.
like when they were this is so disturbing. In California because of the fracking, there were like all these kale farms. And kale, how fun is this, guys? Kale farms. Kale is a really good detoxifier. So it's as a plant, it's really good at, and so it would draw up all the metals from the ground into the leaves as part of its detoxification process. And of course, we're taking the kale leaves and we're putting them into health smoothies, and so like I was seeing functional medicine doctors, we were seeing that their patients who are eating a lot of kale having sudden big spikes in thallium poisoning.
Mhm.
So it's
Yeah,
like,
kale is one of the most toxic. It's like filled with glyphosate too. So it's
right.
like, why eat kale? There's
But this, but
other
this is the challenge, right?
alternatives.
For like us ordinary people, we're trying to do the right thing, we're trying to make good decisions, but it feels like really hard to know what to reach for. and like where our baselines are. So this is what I said, like with your stuff, it's like getting the right diagnostic testing first to see
Mhm.
the baseline, and then that baseline is going to help someone understand like what they're working with, so they can
Yeah.
choose how to make the adjustments in their lifestyle. Or
Hmm.
yeah,
And
makes
it
sense.
really starts with the foundation of like the nutritional foundation, your environmental foundation, removing certain exposures and starting to learn and create awareness around that. And that's what the testing can really help people do. And we've even created a quiz, like a self-assessment that you can take. And this is something that I wish that I had 10 years ago because I was going through all of these symptoms and I had no idea I was doing everything right. I was um, a bodybuilder at the time, and I was going to the gym and working out and walking and eating really healthy and clean. And I couldn't figure out what was going on. Then I was bit by a tick, and my body was already so stressed out that um, then I got Lyme, and like my body just started creating all of this chaos. And the biggest thing that I wish I had was more awareness around, like what and where did it come from and how can I really make it go away or work with it or allow my body to start to heal and give it the support that it needs. And that's why my partner and I created this self-assessment because it's super easy. It's like
Mm.
a 3-minute quiz. And it's not like a quiz like you take at school. And you get to ask yourself and answer the questions for yourself so that you can start to make better decisions
So it's
and
like
more
map.
aligned decisions
Mm.
within, yeah, within your life. So,
I think what's challenging with this stuff, with the chronic illnesses, is that if you look at how we describe the symptoms, it can all kind of sound so familiar and similar, right? Like even
mhm.
I know, does anyone here live in the northeast of America? The northeasters, like kind of up, yeah, we got some. Yeah, because you guys are like Lyme land, right? So like this. Like everyone out there is like Lyme disease. But
Hmm.
like acute Lyme disease is recognized, but chronic Lyme disease is still one of those things that like a lot of doctors won't recognize or treat properly. But people who
Hmm.
get infected with Lyme, like I had Lyme and then I had the co-infections of like Babesia, and like that stuff expresses then as like brain fog,
Hmm.
fatigue, like, some basic, like all these kinds of like symptoms that also express with metal toxicity or with mold. And so the challenge we have is like so many of us are like, yeah, I'm tired. I have brain fog. Like my digestion's not quite right. I can feel my hormones are like these imbalances we can feel, but they in themselves are not diagnostic because
Yeah.
they're so chronic generalized, right?
Hmm.
Dental
Well, and a lot
fillings.
of
Yeah,
times,
oh, yeah, Rita, exactly.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I see in the chat dental fillings. That's one too.
I mean, the
Um,
old amalgams, the classic,
yeah.
like that's a great dose of micro metal poisoning.
Yeah, and it's really like what you're talking about. I mean, I experienced that too. I had Babesia. I had like I had all of those cofactors as well, but it wasn't just the one thing. So if you start treating the one thing and you're not actually focusing on the channels in your body and like making sure that you're able to drain and remove toxins, then it's just going to stay. And there's a lot of studies out there about Lyme disease and how it doesn't go away. And um, like there's not really any claims that can be made yet that it does go away. But for myself, like I got tested and then I retested myself years later and I had nothing. It's like I never had it. So um, I think there are definitely ways that we can clean out the body, and that's what I do with my clients with insoma. And we start to clean like the lymph, the liver, like every single organ system. It's all connected. And then also focusing on like the emotional components as well, and focusing on sleep, since that's what this whole conversation is about. Like, how can we get better sleep? And then also testing. Like, we don't want to guess. It can be really, it can be kind of foggy too when you have all of those symptoms and, one symptom and then you're waking up and you're tired and you can't get out of bed. And and then all of a sudden, like you can't fall asleep at night and you're losing your words and you can't remember anything. And that was me. And really from there, like if you have all of these symptoms, getting tested is really great. And it's also it's not 100% always necessary, but it's really good to see what is going on because it
Mm.
can create more awareness. And that's really like where it comes from is awareness. You know,
Yeah, so
where did it
seeing
come
so seeing
from?
like
How
the
can I get rid of it?
toxins, yeah, like these disrupting elements like the toxins,
Hmm.
the blue light,
Yeah.
the mold. I'm
Hmm.
also curious
They're all,
because I know that when you're talking about sleep in the body systems, you also talk about hormones. And I know for all of us, I mean, hormones just kind of feel sometimes like this really complicated mystery soup. But can you maybe speak to a little bit about how hormones can impact sleep?
yeah. Well, it all comes back from the upstream stressors. So like mold, heavy metals, environmental toxins, physical stress, all of that then can disrupt hormones like estrogen, progesterone, melatonin. Um, and then, you have vitamin D, and that's where you start to make hormones. So if your vitamin D is low, that's a precursor for hormones. And if you're not really emitting like that signal from your brain to the rest of your body saying, hey, I need to produce all of these hormones, then it's going to be harder to sleep because then you don't have melatonin. And melatonin is like our sleep hormone. It's what helps us hit REM. It's what helps us dream. It's what helps us stay awake. And cortisol is that hormone that wakes us up. So if we have to pee in the middle of the night, like that's like cortisol saying, hey, like let's wake up and go to the bathroom. And um, yeah,
It
I mean,
sounds like
all
those are
of these,
two like really important levers for sleep. Like you've got
yeah.
your melatonin, you've got your cortisol, which actually leads us into like the waking up part of it, which is,
Mhm.
again, big common experience for us lucid dreamers. A lot of my clients I've worked with, but waking up and then really struggling to fall asleep again. So maybe we've got the first 4 or 5 hours of sleep, but I had a lot of clients who are like, they're seeming to get the deep sleep, but then they're really struggling to get those last few hours of sleep, which for us guys, I mean, that's our REM, right? Like that's our juicy dreaming period of the night. So what's happening there? Like if someone like goes to the bathroom, comes back, and then they're like in a 1 hour limbo.
Yeah. There's a lot of things that could be going on. I mean, if you turn the lights on, then all of a sudden you're like, "Ah, I'm awake. It's daytime." Your body thinks that it's daytime because you woke up. But if you're waking up because there's like something that's impacting one of your organs, like your liver, your gallbladder, or your intestines, all of those start to activate. And those can activate, like there's certain hours of the night where each organ system is more active. And so, say you have a toxin or you have something or you have an accumulation of stress in that system, then it will activate and wake you up because it's moving, it's working at that
What are
period.
the windows? I'm curious. Like what just to map, can you
Yeah.
map those organs and
Um,
times for us?
yeah. So between 1 and 3 is your liver and like liver gallbladder.
And the liver and the gallbladder are detoxify it? What do they do?
Yeah. So liver and
Show
gallbladder,
me
they
my
have,
skeleton.
yeah, on the right side of your body, you've got your liver and then you have your gallbladder above your stomach. And so that releases bile and stomach acid, and then you can get like gallstones and liver stones with accumulation of toxins. And so what that does is it starts to work because it has to emit bile. And when it's working, it starts to work during that hour in that window. And then we also have different windows like our small intestine. We have our stomach, which is 7 to 9 a.m. in the morning. So when you first wake up, like you usually have to go to the bathroom, like that's that window in Chinese medicine. And then you've got your colon, which is like 5 to 7 a.m. And then this one's really great. This is the lung window. So the lung meridian in Chinese medicine is between 3 and 5 a.m. is when it's really strong. So
And
that's our
what's
light.
the lung meridian? Like what is that connected to in terms of like because I know for again, dreaming, most of that's going to happen during that window. I'm curious what the
Well, it's like it's breath. So expansion of your breath. So our lungs are it's the only organ that we can consciously control. So like we can hold our breath or we can release it. And in at night, like we're unconsciously breathing. But throughout the day is where if we're accumulating different stressors or emotional stress, or if we have like
Mm.
an infection in our lungs, then it will start to wake us up between those hours. And um, especially like if people have asthma, it can be around that time too. And then that's also one of the most important times for REM, around
Yeah.
3 and 5 a.m.
Oh, and that's like prime lucid dreaming time. We're like
Yeah.
that's when us lucid dreamers get
Hmm.
our little hats on, you know. But this is
Yeah.
the but again, like one of the challenges I find so many practitioners have is that to be a lucid dreaming practitioner, there's this balance between activating the mind, so you
Hmm.
have enough awareness and self-reflective capacity online, and being in a deeply restful state so your body can go fully asleep into REM, right? And
Hmm.
the challenge I've noticed that I've had many people have is that whether it's whether it's stress or whether it's toxins or trauma, like all the things we talked about, we tend to carry a momentum that means that when we wake the system up, it can be really hard for people to drop back into sleep in a meaningful way to access the dreams. But that skill, like if someone's able to do that, their ability to lucid dream is significantly increased versus if
Hmm.
we just conk out at the beginning of the night and don't do those kinds of like lighter wakings and bringing the awareness in.
Yeah. A lot
Um,
of that too has to do with circadian, like it's the circadian rhythm. So if your biological clock is off because your cortisol is spiking at those times, it is going to be harder to fall back asleep
mm.
because now it's rising when it's supposed to be low.
So then what
So
about
that's,
things like, I mean, a lot of people will then, you talk about melatonin. What
hmm.
about just taking melatonin as a supplement, right? Because I think in America you can just
Hmm.
buy it over the counter.
Yeah.
Um, does that help? Is it a temporary measure? Like, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, people think that like you could just take melatonin as just a sleeping pill and it can work, but what we really want to do is to allow our body to naturally produce melatonin. Um, Melatonin can be great. Like there's a lot of studies on like taking different types of like dosages to get a better sleep, but you would only want to do that for a certain amount of time. But I wouldn't necessarily like I usually don't recommend to my clients like, hey, like let's take melatonin. Let's actually look deeper. Like let's pretend we're a car and we want to look underneath the hood. What's going on there? Why is your melatonin not releasing? Right? Like maybe there's a serotonin dopamine imbalance. So, or there's a toxin that's disrupting the brain. So we instead of just like taking it, which maybe you might need to for a certain period of time, depending on your body and your biology. But it can be, it can be definitely like overused as a band-aid
So
versus,
scaffolding rather than like replacement of the wheels.
hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I love melatonin. I mean, I take melatonin on certain nights. There's times where um, I'll take melatonin for like a few weeks and then I'll do a little experiment on myself. And then with certain clients, like we'll do specific dosages of melatonin to help with their serotonin. So it really goes hand in hand with your circadian rhythm and what you're
Yeah.
doing throughout the day, which is then the foundation, right? Like when we go back and we talk about the foundation, that's what is going to help your brain and your body produce more melatonin so that you can sleep.
Well, it's interesting because I think actually Rita asked a good question, which kind of links into this. Rita's asking that she notices that some melatonin stimulates dreams and some
Mhm.
products do, some don't.
Yeah.
I noticed that too, Rita. Like some melatonin, I'm like, woohoo! It's like a little psychedelic, like let's go. I'm gonna have the craziest dreams tonight. Not necessarily lucid, though. I notice it makes me very non-lucid.
Yeah.
Um, but back to the one of the questions, which was about the quality and length of REM sleep, right? I
Mhm.
know melatonin is connected to that. Uh, but can you speak a little bit to, especially in this case for, I think for aging, like not so much even if it's a toxic disruption, but if we just in general want to improve the quality and the length of our REM, how we can do that.
Mhm. It really, again, like it starts with the day, the daytime. What are you doing throughout the day? How much stress are you carrying? Are you detoxifying your body? Are you stimulating yourself all the time? Because if you start to stimulate yourself with constant exposures to like your phone, your computer, toxins, and you're not doing the work to allow yourself to like remove those things and focus on your digestion and excretion and nervous system balance and regulation, it can be harder to stay in REM. And what we want is that deep sleep, especially for aging. Like you can age really, really well and gracefully if you're getting a lot of sleep. And then also with hormones, like if you're a woman and you reach menopause and your progesterone dips, like progesterone helps you stay asleep. So we want to access and look at how well are toxins moving through our system, how well is our body like regulating and staying safe. And then we can like access sleep even better because it's
Mm.
not just one size fits all. It's not just, hey, like, well, let's take more melatonin so we stay in REM longer. Like the
Yeah, and
body
this
doesn't.
and this and this is the thing I found is like the I remember someone saying to me once, like, if you really want to make something easy, you have to do the hard work up front.
Mhm.
And like,
Yeah.
the part of me that just is like, come on, there's got to be like a button or a pill, like something we can just like, where's the magic REM pill, right? But it's interesting because I've seen this, with all my clients, I will always send out a sleep and dream sheet with like all the supportive supplements we hear about, like, oh yeah, magnesium glycinate, or you can take this herb which will help with stimulate REM. But to your point, I've seen that it has a limited viability because it only works at like the surface level. It works at like the fiddling with the dials, like, okay, well, this is down, so like let's crank this up, but it doesn't last. And that's why I've found the frustration of like, I especially for people who are dealing with ongoing issues, right? Any ongoing sleep issues, energy issues. What I hear you keep coming back to is that it's a whole systems approach. It's a
Hmm.
whole systems approach of like looking at our whole biological organism and asking, where are there stresses? Where are we
Hmm.
not clearing? Where is our nervous system stuck? Where
Yeah.
are like the toxins stuck? And being willing to work at that deeper level to
Hmm.
rebuild it. And then it sounds like sleep and REM
Yeah. Like it
naturally
goes hand
are
in hand. It
awesome.
just matches. Yeah. And it goes hand in hand because we want to identify the upstream stressors, the environmental toxins, the traumas, the thoughts, the physical stress, the environment that you're in. And then we can start to go deeper. And then we can sleep better. And it's like, and it's not just one size fits all. Like we need to be able to detox our bodies and be able to remove those toxins. Like, and I keep going back to that because it really starts there and it really starts with stress on the body and how can we de-stress so much. And also the other thing that I hear often is, and I've seen this like within practitioners who I used to work with multiple practitioners when I was going through my own journey and I was going from one to the other, and no one actually like assessed what was underneath.
Hmm.
So like, how were my stress levels? Was I able to self-regulate? And then what was impacting those? So like my biggest thing was mold and Lyme, and no one assessed that. And so we need to be able to go kind of like backtrack and look at the deepest layers of what's affecting our body and then be able to like, retrace those patterns, remove them, look at the body as a whole system versus just here's a pill, take this supplement.
Yeah.
Um,
Or the silo
like take
approach of like
magnesium.
conventional medicine, right? Which I always find really interesting, the silo approach of there's a foot doctor, and then
Yeah.
there's an ear doctor, and there's a liver doctor, and a
Hmm.
tongue doctor. And like,
Yeah.
you go to each one and they will look at this like tiny piece of you and
Hmm.
then be like, take this.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, everything's connected.
Yeah.
So we
Yeah,
have to
there's
look at
no
the
like
whole system.
borders in our body, right? I think that's what's so interesting is like
Yeah.
taking the systemic approach.
Hmm. Well, and right now too, like I'm seeing a lot of take this for for this, or take this because you're going to sleep better, or take this and it's going to be really good for your liver detoxification. And what a lot of people are doing now is they're detoxing first and they're just removing everything before actually creating a foundation in the body to where you can have your lymphatic drainage pathways open, all of your organs working, and then focusing on sleep and then going into detox.
And I
But
would also say, like, for anyone who's listening to this, like, who has had, who, like, if you know you have, whether it's, I've got residual Lyme or mold or this, and or you just kind of know there's a holding in the body, to do the detox properly with a professional. When I first, again, please learn from my horrific mistakes. When I first realized I had lead, um, I was put, I kind of just like worked with someone who was not an expert in it. Like they put me on this detox protocol. And because I hadn't done the deeper work, I didn't realize like my detox pathways are not great. I have a gene deletion, which means that I don't produce a lot of glutathione. Like I have conditions that make me shitty at detoxing, which is why my lead levels were so high to begin with. And so when
Mhm.
they did this detox protocol with me, it pulled all the lead out of the bones and tissue where it was stored, but my body couldn't release it, so it went straight to my brain. And so that's why I got so sick, right? It was
Mhm.
like the detox done unskillfully made me so much sicker. So that's why I'm always like, please, I just want to say, like, if you are going to do some kind of detox, please do it with someone who understands how the systems work together.
Mhm.
So, like Rachel's saying, you can make sure that your body is supported and strong enough and the pathways are open. So when you pull everything out, it can actually release versus
Mhm.
like feeling 10 times worse.
Yeah.
You'll feel a little bit
Yeah.
worse for a minute, but like you shouldn't get like horribly, terribly sick like I did.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was I mean, I went through the same thing. I worked with practitioners for 10 years and I never found a good one until like I did the work on myself and then I started working with clients through that experience. And so you really want to be able to work with someone who has an understanding of the full systems, of the full body and how it works because if it goes to your brain, that's not fun.
Yeah.
So what you experience there, like it was just, the skill and maybe the awareness just wasn't there.
Yeah, and
And that's
a
okay.
new this is a relatively I'd say again like the jumps in our research and our understanding, the fact that functional medicine, which used to be, mainstream medicine called functional medicine quackery 20 years ago, now it's a massively integrated part of like what is the rising tide of modern healthcare. So before we go to Q&A, because I want to make sure people have a chance to ask questions, but I actually went and I found your super cool
Yeah, the
quiz.
self-assessment.
Yeah, the self-assessment. Because this is actually, I want to, if you're wondering where you sit in this, I think this is it here. Did I find it right? Yeah.
No,
If you're
it's the
curious,
other one.
let me just bring it up because it's really helpful to have like little reflection tools. This is her company's website. This is her assessment. So you can literally just jump in here and she asks all the questions around, different environmental exposures, the right questions to help you kind of figure out where you sit. So yeah, highly recommend jumping in to take this. It was super helpful for me. I'm working on my own stuff right now. Again, the never-ending journey of health, especially when you're pregnant. Uh, so yeah, I'll send it out with the email as well if you want to take it later. But let me just put that in there for you guys. Really helpful to start. And then I would love to just give everyone here a chance to ask their own questions too. I know with this kind of the health sleep journey, it's all pretty personal. So a couple ways you can ask questions. You're welcome to put them in the chat and I can help kind of pull those out. Or if you want to ask, you can raise your hand using the little raise hand button down the bottom, and that will work too. But last question from me, Rachel, is if someone, well, all of us here, we do want to improve like the natural quality of our sleep, both so that we can sleep better, dream better, but also, like you said, like so that sleep can become a restorative process.
Yeah.
What would be like the three big needle movers that you would
Hmm.
tell people to do?
The three movers would be getting outside first thing in the morning. No matter what you do, get outside. Like look at the sun. Even if it's not sunny outside and you live like in the middle of winter, you can still go outside and go for a walk, and that restores your natural body's rhythm, and it really helps with your circadian rhythm. And then number two would be just making sure that you're giving yourself proper nutrition throughout the day. So focusing on removing seed oils and focusing on like getting like your carbs, fats, and proteins, and looking at, like what works well for you, because a lot of times too, like sometimes people wake up and they're hungry. And then the third would be reducing blue light as much as you can. And then make sure that you can go see a sunset or go outside during sunset and turning off your lights. And then really, if you want to go even deeper, then you can go and do testing. And then we can
And
see.
with the light thing, like I know you've got your cool groovy. Those are those block blue lights. So like, I mean, realistically, I mean the sun here goes down at like 5:30. I'm not
Mhm.
going to be walking around the dark. Is it about like, do you just need to have red lamps, or is it the
Yeah,
glasses that
you
help? Or
can
like,
get.
how could you, is it, are we going back to candlelight? Are we like, oh, ye olde times? Like, what are we doing?
So candlelight's amazing. That's honestly like
Too
it's funny
scary
that
for
you
me.
say
Fire
that because
hazard.
you just put candles, just don't burn your house down. The blue light blocking glasses are great. These ones are raw optics, which I love. Um, and then you can also get incandescent light bulbs. So depending on where you live, you may or may not be able to get them, but there's things called bug lights. And I can send you this, me, and you can send this to
Yeah,
everybody.
maybe we can send me a list I can send out for people to explore.
Yeah, but there's bug lights and those don't have blue light, so they're really soft and they don't emit a flicker. And that's what blue light has inside these like in or inside the LED lamps, there's a flicker. So if you ever put your phone, and you can test this at home, you can turn your camera on and put it towards a light and it will flicker, and that's the LED. So that's what we want to make sure that we're not getting a lot of, and that we're getting more natural.
So we could kind of
Um,
create a setup. So we say, okay, I've got my evening light set up. So I know like when the sun goes down, I have the setup so that I
yeah.
can just know that environmentally I'm preparing myself physiologically to wind down for sleep. That makes sense.
hmm
Okay, cool.
Yeah, and it's really about the foundational rhythm. So your morning rhythm, what you're doing throughout the day, and then your night rhythm, and have it be consistent. And then also try to go to bed every night at the same time or around the same time, because then like melatonin's going to be going off at different hours of the night based on when you're going to sleep. So if you have this random sleep wake cycle, it can impact that. So that would be like a big recommendation is, 10 o'clock every single night. Don't eat after 9 p.m. Don't drink any water after 9 p.m. All of that can start to impact sleep.
And then what about, because obviously in winter as well, having many of us have, not
Mhm.
me, let's be honest, I live in Costa Rica, but many of my beloved community have just gone through a winter where it's hard to get like a lot of light. Do those,
Mhm.
I know there's those kind of like sad lamps or those kind of red light lamps. Do they
Yeah,
help at all?
yeah, they
They
do. They're
do.
amazing.
They're
I
like
love
and they're like
red
this
light
like the little red what are they? Red lamps.
Red light lamps,
Red
red
light
light.
lamps, yeah.
Yeah. And you can even buy red light bulbs, but I would focus more on like because red light's supposed to be like the sun in the morning. So you could do 10 minutes in the morning and 10 minutes in
Yeah,
the
because like if you're
evening.
waking up for work, but it's so dark because it's winter,
Yeah.
you can't go
We turn
outside and
our
get.
lights on every
So you
morning.
you could kind of like, okay, cool. Like, how can I bring in some of the goodness? It might be like having 15 minutes of like a red light in the morning, and then making sure at nighttime everything's kind of like blue light cleared. Those kinds of
Yeah.
things could help if we're in a more kind of we don't have access to the natural cycles of things. You can
Yeah.
create it. Okay, cool, amazing.
And if you're waking up in the middle of the night too, you can get red light lamps that go in your bathroom. So if you have to go to the bathroom, you don't have to turn on any
Mm.
lights. And I work a lot with like a lot of women during their pregnancy as well. And then when you have a baby, you want to turn the lights on. But it's really great if you just have a red light or like a candle or soft
Or if you're
lighting.
lucid dreaming
Don't
and you do
have
wake back to
LED.
bed, having a red light
Yeah,
instead.
that too. Yeah.
So, question just while we're on the red light, Stephanie, I'm going to come to you in a minute. Is Question here, is red light the same as infrared?
There's infrared lights that have red light, but red light is not the same as infrared. You have to get a specific one that has infrared and UV. And then there's certain red light lamps that have UV, and then there's certain red light lamps that you can turn that off and just get the red lights. So you could buy like a red light bulb, but that wouldn't have infrared. It would have to specifically
Okay,
say
so those are
infrared.
two, yeah, two separate things. And then Rian says, my phone says red green filter
Mhm.
protanopia? Protanopia? Is that what you mean by red filter, or do you have to choose like a color tint? Like you said, you can put a filter on your phone.
Yeah, you can do the color tint and you can press the red crayon. So there's an accessibility. You can go into settings,
So
and then you can turn
accessibility
it all the way
settings.
up. Yeah,
Okay.
it's under accessibility. And I'll send you that as well too. And then you can do a triple click if you have an iPhone on the side, and then it will just turn it on and off. And then you can also put your phone on grayscale if you don't need, like that will completely emit blue light is grayscale.
Like get rid of it.
Hmm. And then they
Ah,
also,
interesting.
yeah,
Okay. That's a grayscale's an accessibility too. And actually
yeah.
grayscale's amazing for reducing the dopamine addiction of phones as well.
Yeah, it is.
That's
And then one of the
yeah.
most simple tricks too is to just be like if you open up a window and you have natural light waves coming inside, then that will also like negate the effects of the blue light coming
Hmm.
into your eyes through the computer. Because then you got natural light coming in and then you have blue light coming in. So you're getting like 60-ish%.
Versus just like a mega dose of blue light. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna bring Stephanie up. How you doing, Stephanie? Good to see you.
Sorry, I'm like, right, okay. Is it working?
Yeah, yeah, I got you.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you. Um, thank you so much for this very helpful, relevant information for me. So, um, I've written something in the chat about that I am coming from I know that I've been am exposed in a somewhat ongoing way to heavy metals. Um, why is this not, this is in my way. Anyway, okay. And from Palisades fire in Pacific Palisades, and was displaced by that. And my, no question, my nervous system has been highly dysregulated. I know it's like over a year now, but it's still quite something. But just the ongoing part of it, not the immediate. So I'm a lot better than I was maybe 6 months ago, and I'm doing a lot of different things. But a couple questions came up for me while you're talking. One is, so I have to be up there and dealing with things sometimes, and I'm wearing like, hazmat stuff, and a full face respirator, things like this. But I have to, there's problems with that, with breathing. There's problems with it that it causes if you wear it too long. So I'll switch that with an N95. But none of this is good. I still don't, it's it's just not good. My place is toxic. That there is no, the neighborhood is toxic. There is no neighborhood. It's like the moon. So it's really quite stunning. So um one question is, and I have another one question is, and my sleep issue, which is a big one, because I'm working on multiple fronts to keep myself to recover from this and become healthy again. And it's taken some time. And my sleep, I fall asleep fine because I'm exhausted. But I do have the thing where I wake up, and sometimes I wake up and I'm like wide awake, and I'll be up for 2 hours or something, an hour or two. So I do different things. I'll just meditate in bed. I'll get up, I'll practice qigong sometimes. Sometimes I just listen to I have all kinds of methods that I'm employing, like what's become a fairly large toolbox. And yet this doesn't, I'm struggling to regulate my going to bed. Maybe that's just, oh God, I have so many questions. It's hard. Okay, one question. Is there anything I can do that would help me? Because I know that I am getting some exposure. I know I've been exposed to things. It's not even only heavy metals, it's things that they don't even test for. It's all the forever chemicals and things that are burning up in an urban wildfire that is completely consuming. So it's heavy, it's everything. So is
Mhm.
there any, how would you approach that is one question. I may try to contact you separately,
And
but
and Stephanie, I'll send out
yeah.
because there's a few people who've reached out to me already. I'll make sure I
Okay.
send out the pathway if you're curious about like working with Rachel's company, how to do that.
Possibly.
Yeah, you can explore it.
So yeah, I'll try to narrow my question. So okay, I'm sorry. I'm
What's your
so
question? Come on,
like
let's do it. You can
too
do it,
okay.
Stephanie.
So
Let's
one
go.
question is there anything that you suggest when you know you're going into a potentially toxic environment to supplement or boost your system beforehand? Is there anything like that? And then the second question I had to do with melatonin. I never melatonin didn't work.
Let's start with that one.
Okay.
Let's go there. We can jump back to the question
Okay.
after, so we
Thanks.
keep it in the same bucket.
Okay.
Rachel,
So I would say like ensure that your detox pathways are working properly. So if you're experiencing like a lot of these symptoms, you
how do you
can
do
look
that
at
though? How?
so you can look into like what toxins are in your home. So starting to focus on, like the cleaning supplies that you're using in your home.
Oh, it's not like that. This is not even at that. This is
Mm.
my home is not livable. It's
So yeah,
truly
so I'll
toxic.
give you the
It's
context, Stephanie. So for context,
yeah.
her
So like
home
in your
burned
home
down,
now.
right? So you know the fires, like
Yeah.
so it's like so she
Okay.
has to go back to the
Mhm.
burned down home
It's not
and she,
burned. I'm sorry. It's not burned down. It's the only home standing in a neighborhood that's burned
Mm.
down.
right.
That's what it is.
Oh,
So
so it's the hot
Well,
spot
where
that
you're,
stored
yeah.
everything.
yes,
Well, where you're staying
exactly. It's
now.
stored
Great.
everybody else's
Amazing.
burnt.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well,
Exactly.
so wherever you're staying now, you can look at, okay, how can I like be and look at my environment and still reduce the amount of exposure where you're at now. And then when you go back in there, then you can look at making sure that you're removing like all of your clothing after. You can use,
I'm sorry. I'm going to interrupt you though, because I don't want you to waste any of your time. Um, this is all done by professionals. I have to deal with professionals dealing with that. This is so beyond going. This is not like this is how do I explain this? I have to
So
go and
Steph, I
deal.
think yeah, so I think Stephanie, because it's such a specific question, I
Okay,
think
I'm going
maybe
to
like
hold
I'll
off on
connect,
that
yeah, what I
question.
might do is like make this connection afterwards to have it because I think this is a it's a much bigger,
Mhm.
deeper discussion.
Yes, yes,
If you're
yes.
okay
Let
with that,
me.
I'll so you can get the answer after the class if that's okay.
Okay, can I
Great.
ask just a very short other
Yeah, of course.
question?
Ski, let's get to
Okay, let me
melatonin.
I'll speak with you another time and get it'll be more clear. So okay, the other question has to do with people with using melatonin or things to help you sleep in a temporary basis or occasional or if you wake up years ago, I tried melatonin. It didn't work well for me. It felt too strong. It would like kind of knock me out. And then like I'd wake up after, like it just was not a comfortable fit. What I did use for many years was L-tryptophan, which is the more like pre-melatonin amino acid or whatever. And
Yeah.
then for some reason, I started to read stuff that was adverse about it, or so, I don't know. Is L-tryptophan or something that you consider reasonable to use instead, or is it not, or is it fallen out of favor, or what's the deal with that?
Yeah, that's a
If you
great
know.
question. Yeah, there's a way to cycle it, and so you don't want to take too much L-tryptophan or 5-HTP if that's what you were taking. You don't want to
No,
take
no,
too
it's
much of
straight
it.
L-tryptophan.
Yeah. Well, it can still cause something with like serotonin. So you wouldn't want to completely rely on it, just like you wouldn't want to rely on melatonin. And so I would just look into like cycling. If you are taking anything, you would want to cycle it. So you wouldn't want to take it like weeks on end and
Oh,
give your body
I
a break.
stopped. Yeah. Okay.
And there's other
Okay.
things that you can take, like there's ashwagandha and there's like the functional mushroom blends that really help calm your system down. But then again, like the deeper layers there, we would want to assess why can't you fall asleep versus just supplementing with
Fall
a
back to
pill.
sleep. It's just the fall
Yeah.
back to sleep part. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll probably talk to you another time. Thank you so
Thanks,
You're
much.
welcome.
Stephanie.
Sorry, Mia.
No, no, no. I like this is the health rabbit hole is real. Like I know it. I'm like, ah. It's actually one of the reasons again, like because it's one of the challenges with health is that even though there are these roadmaps, and I love the functional medicine roadmap because it treats the body like interlinking systems, the hormonal system, the neurotoxin systems. Like it treats it as systems to treat versus like organs, but each person is like their own bespoke journey. Okay, I'm gonna pull a couple more questions here. Okay, so Brianna asks, this is here. How do the mold? Sorry, I'm pulling through these here. Oh, it was daylight savings one I want to get to. Kitty asked around the daylight savings, because this just happened, with this kind of like jump in time that we do as a constructed society, like how does that affect us? And the question that like how can we calibrate with these jumps in time?
hmm Well, the summer and winter with daylight savings time, it's like a constant stress on our body. So there's certain states that don't have daylight savings times, like Arizona. I don't know if you're affected out where you
We
are,
don't have
Mia,
it.
but
Yeah.
yeah, so it's like the constant flip-flop of, okay, now we have to go to bed earlier, and it affects because it affects your hormones because now your melatonin, your circadian rhythm is still on the other clock. So it takes a while. It can take like a week to reacclimate, and our bodies are powerful. I mean, we can adapt to that. It does take time for
Yeah.
everybody. And
Makes
you could
sense.
supplement, like there are people that supplement with melatonin during that time so that they can fall asleep sooner and that they can rewire their pathways. So there's certain ways that you can go about that
So
there
you
too
essentially
to
have to
make it
take like
easier.
a reset of the cycle, like a subtle reset, like if you were jet lagged, having to like just come back and reset into a new timing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really similar. And then there's things like um, making sure like light is so important. And I can't reference that enough. Like going outside, I mean, that's the best thing that you can do to reset melatonin in your circadian rhythm is going outside and watching the sunset. And if you do that 3 nights in a row, watching the sunset and reset your circadian rhythm that way, it'll be way easier to jump
Assuming you
back.
don't come back and turn all the lights on, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Which is
Yeah.
exactly, I did this the other day and I was like, that was counterproductive.
Yeah.
So Rianne has a question around the lung meridian, which you were sharing about. How can you help heal the lung meridian? And would that healing perhaps help stop the night waking?
So the lung meridian in Chinese medicine is like a night crisis. And so you would want to look at, okay, how are you breathing throughout the day? Are you holding your breath constantly? So taking a self-assessment of where you're at within your body and then healing your lungs, like cooling agents like cucumber and making sure that you're not using a lot of like fire elements, like fiery foods like spices and hot sauce and things like that, because that affects the liver and the lungs. And so we want to reduce heat in the lungs. Um, there's other ways that you can look at in the lungs, like if you were exposed to mold. I mean, mold affects the lungs and it can break down the tissue inside the walls of the lungs and make it harder to breathe. So there's there's ways like that. You can get air filters, like air doctors are really great, or air oases are really great. There's different types of ailments like cleaning your air and focusing on big breaths. And then there's like supplementation there as well that you can do, but really going deeper, like what actually is going on. And so then we can assess like piece by piece each layer.
It's interesting how there always seems to be, I like that there's a willingness to look at the kind of the emotional nervous system element of this too, because I think about how much of our bodies, like again, back to the mind body connection, you might have these like very strong external stresses, like, okay, I'm breathing in super polluted air. But then like to your
hmm
point, like I also think for many of us, it's also a way of being and a lock in our nervous system that might be creating issues. So I appreciate like that's definitely something I think is coming up pretty new in functional medicine too, is to actually include the nervous system as something to look at.
Yeah.
Great question from Stefan around any suggestions how to replace alcohol to be able to fall asleep? And I would also add here marijuana. So I think there's a lot of use of marijuana, alcohol. When I take clients on, it's one of the things I have to look at with people is, alcohol and marijuana suppress REM. And so make,
hmm
it's make dreaming and lucid dreaming a little harder. But for a lot of people, it's like one of the ways that they fall asleep. So any suggestions around that?
Are you are you asking specifically like because there's a dependency on that to fall asleep, or can they not fall asleep without using?
Yeah, my guess would be, and Stefan, please jump in if I'm misinterpreting this, would be that, yeah, like, you have like nightcap, like I have a nice glass of wine after dinner and then I
Mhm.
can go to sleep. Or for some people, it's like you have a certain, vaping thing of marijuana, they have a couple puffs before they go to sleep, and it's part of their like go to sleep ritual. And without it, going to sleep is more difficult.
Hmm. I mean, you can start to replace. So if you're smoking marijuana or drinking alcohol, it's like, well, first of all, like you can ask yourself the question, like, why? Like, am I using it to calm myself down? Or looking at like the emotional side of things, like, why are you reaching for it? And like, what is that creating a response for you? And so you can always like, maybe make tea or if it brings you the same feeling. So versus reaching for marijuana to calm down, like you could maybe make a tea that can supplement that because maybe it's like a oral fixation. And
So
there
have
might be
have like
something
a
around the lines.
substitute, right? So like create some kind of substitute so that you're not just
Mhm.
like white knuckling it, like not
Yeah.
having anything. Like so have something that replaces it in terms of its ritualistic
Mhm.
properties.
Yeah. Like if
Any
it
any
is a
suggestions on
ritual.
like I mean I know people say like chamomile tea and like but like do you have a
Hmm.
suggestion for like what kinds of things could be the most impactful when you're trying to move
Hmm.
off? Because something like alcohol or weed, like you feel it. It's going to give you a very strong feeling of like relaxation
Yeah.
suddenly, right?
Well, you could take
Chamomile,
like
not so much.
chamomile. Yeah, that's like
It's less
overused.
fun. No one's like having chamomile tea parties, let's be honest. So, you
I
know,
mean, dandelion root tea is amazing. It's like a rootier type of tea. It can be really, it can detox like the liver as well, and it can also like dehydrate. So you want to make sure that you're hydrating if you're drinking dandelion root tea. But I love dandelion. Chamomile is good at night as well. But there's other like I love functional mushrooms, so like ashwagandha, and if you can get like turkey tail and different types of teas that could help aid in sleep. But it's again, it's not going to fix the problem or like fix what's going on. It can help, but we really again like want to assess what's going
right.
on there.
Right. So maybe the first step is like creating a substitute to help with the crutch
Hmm.
and then looking deeper as to like why do we need that in the first place? Yeah.
Hmm.
Beautiful. All right. So then last question I'll take here is from Rita, which was around, yeah, so you mentioned avoiding seed oils. And maybe just
Hmm.
to again that we hear this all the time to actually unpack why that's important.
Yeah. So seed oils are super inflammatory and are actually linked to cancer. So there's a lot of studies that are showing now that are coming out that like certain like they go rancid, especially so they're going bad, and then you're eating and ingesting them. They can clog like arteries. Seed oils can just do like a whole slew of things and just inflammation. It causes inflammation in your tissue, in your brain. It can make you feel puffy. And it can take a while for seed oils like canola, safflower, sunflower oil to actually get out of your system. And you have to do things and like take things to get it out. Like your body will naturally as well. But if you're eating it every single day and it's constant, like impact to your system. So there's amazing, like there's olive oil and coconut oil and avocado oil, just making sure that's really high quality and know your sourcing. And
Mm.
also for olive oil, you would want to look at like the date that it was produced.
And also hilariously, for those who I like all the backstories behind this stuff. So olive oil coming out of Italy is a
Hmm.
the mafia has a huge role in olive oil. I don't know if any of y'all know this, but like, and so they dilute their olive oil with like seed oils. And
Hmm.
so you have to just check. Like I like that's why I like getting my olive oil from like Greece, or there are certain Italian brands that like they subject themselves to third party testing to prove that they're truly olive oil. But just to know that. That's
I
the
always
classic.
say, yeah, I always just to like interject, I always say do local, like know
Mm.
where you're buying your stuff from. So here we have a store, an olive oil store, and they go to Spain and Italy and they go to all the places and they source it and they know the farmers. And that's something that's so important because if you just go buy avocado oil or coconut oil at the store, like it could be split with canola or some other kind of oil. So
Yeah.
That would be my last
Yeah.
thing there.
We all have to become our own kind of Sherlock Holmes of health. And this is the
Mhm.
interesting challenge and opportunity of our time is that, you know, I was reflecting on this with pregnancy and birth and how as a woman or as a, going through that process, I wish I could just rely on the medical doctors. I wish I could just go to the doctor and be like, I trust these people to know what's right and good for me. But we live in a time where, we have different competing theories of health and biology. And we live in a time where healthcare is an enormous billion-dollar industry where there are big corporations that make a lot of money off medications, off health, right? So we have to be really aware and critically reflective about, where our information comes from and what the motivations are behind different foods, medications, systems. But the opportunity is that we live in a world now where we have so many independent pathways we can pursue. And again, why I love the Soma Functional Health company that Rachel's built is about building accessibility to having that kind of a pathway, working with someone, getting testing, being able to have a proper personalized plan that looks at and respects the complicated biology of who you are versus cutting you up into pieces and giving you symptom repressing drugs, right? So
Mhm.
it's a challenge because we have to even look at like, where's my bloody olive oil coming from? But on the other hand, like we do now have access to people, practices, therapies that can help us to restore that natural balance of our body. So
Mhm.
anyway, all of that said, what a great conversation. And
So
Rachel,
beautiful.
thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for sharing, your wisdom, your experience. And yeah, to everyone else, I will make sure I send out the information about Soma Functional Health and all the things that Rachel have mentioned. But thank you so much, Rachel.
Thank you so much, Mia, for having me. It was amazing. And yeah, if all of you have any questions, you can reach out to me or to Mia and we can all get connected there.
Perfect. All right, all. I'll see you guys soon. Have a beautiful rest of your weekend. Ciao,
Bye.
ciao.